This should
Okay.
work. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I cannot believe another week has passed us by. I keep saying that I think COVID, the weeks for me at least, have gone by faster than any other time in my life. It's kind of bananas. I am here today with Tom Dilsheimer of the How Group. Affiliated with Compass. And we are going to be talking today about Tom's business, and as an entrepreneur and business owner, the things that he's learned over the years that have helped him adapt and adjust, and how he is continuing to adapt and adjust in the environment of COVID, in the hopes that it helps a fellow business owner out there. I know we have a lot of stagers and realtors that come in and watch these lives, and I know Tom has so much experience to share with us. So I'm going to ask you, if you are joining us live, to definitely say hello so that we know that you're here. And if you are watching in replay, definitely let me know that too. I'm happy, love to go in and see who sees us in replay. You can ask questions even after the fact, and I'm happy to go in and answer those for you. But let's get started with, Tom, tell me a bit about your business, your background, who you serve, just give us kind of the scope. What areas do you serve?
So I'm a principal with the How Group Real Estate. We are Compass Greater Philly's largest team in the Philadelphia area by agent count and by volume. I think we have 28 full-time agents. Last year, we generated 99 million in sales revenue. And the How Group, we were an independent brokerage I formed with a couple partners 5 years ago. And we're part of the How Group is a larger entity, a builder, developer, a property manager. And when they saw a need for a real estate brokerage, because that's the one sort of element in the life cycle of a real estate transaction they didn't have, their managing partner reached out to me and said, "Hey, Tom, I was a Berkshire Hathaway agent at the time." He said, "You want to come partner up with us and start a brokerage?" And I said, "Sure." 4.5 years later, we were really growing, and we saw Compass as a wonderful partner, as a larger sort of version of ourselves, a company that is rooted in principles of doing the right thing, of doing whatever it takes, of serving the community. And we just meshed really well. So in fact, today is our 1-year anniversary of joining Compass. So
wow.
We're super excited about that.
Happy anniversary.
So I work all over the city of Philadelphia, and the main line from Bala Cynwyd out to Wayne and Berwyn. Also do some transactions in Montgomery County, Lafayette Hill, Plymouth Meeting, et cetera, and over into Delaware County and Havertown and Newtown Square. So I have a fairly wide footprint, which is helpful because I'm familiar with, little investment shell properties in West Philly to large mansions in Bryn Mawr, to investment properties in between, to condos and ground, et cetera. So one of the neat things about real estate is there's so many different ways that you can be successful. I know agents that are dedicated to working with buyers only, or agents that only work with seniors who are downsizing, or luxury home specialists, or what have you. So the path that I found is a large geographic footprint and being able to serve a variety of populations. So it's been helpful for me because I find that sometimes when a market shifts, for instance, right now, the market's starting to shift where the suburbs are a little hotter than the city because of COVID. There's a sense of people wanting to get out of the city. So the suburbs are really hot. Well, if I was a dedicated city agent and I was only doing city business, that would be a real disadvantage for me. Yeah. But because I have a footprint in the burbs, things are robust for me there, while the city might not be as hot. So that's a real help. So having that sort of variety is worthwhile. But real estate's been in my blood. I grew up in the family business. My dad and my uncle were builders and developers. They built tract housing in the suburbs outside of Philly and in the state of Delaware. And as a kid, I literally was digging ditches and picking up trash on weekends when I was a teenager, I was working job sites and, as a laborer in the summers. And when I was literally, 21, fresh out of college, I was a marketing assistant in our development company. And we went on to sell, this was in the early 90s. We went on to sell, a couple thousand homes, expanded to North Carolina, had a division on the coast. We had another division in the panhandle of Florida. And in the early 2000s, we were, we thought of ourselves as a big deal until the market crashed in 2008. And I had a pretty good slice of humble pie. I took my real estate license, which I first earned in 1994, but never used it. So I took that license in 2008 and said, well, there's no work for an unemployed, head of marketing and sales in a regional development company. So I better start selling. And I started selling real estate and found that I was fairly good at it. Attracted a good following of buyers and sellers who wanted to work with me purely by referral. And it just grew and grew. So just goes to show you, when you kind of get kicked in the teeth, you got to get up and figure it out.
Right.
So.
Totally. So two things, my takeaway there is you've got a little bit of experience.
Yeah, a little bit.
And that you started your actual real estate practice in 2008, like in the crash.
Yes. Yeah. And
so tell me about that.
The first thing I did was, so up to that point, most of my real estate contacts were not in the areas that I serve, right? They were in the exurbs in Southern Chester County. They were in Newcastle County, Delaware, and Kent County, Delaware, in the state of North Carolina. So I knew nobody. So the first thing I did was, because nobody was hiring, 2008 was such an awful recession, in my opinion, so much worse than today's environment.
Really? Okay.
Because banks didn't lend in 2008. So when banks don't lend, the whole system grinds to a halt, and it's very hard to get it started again. This, I feel, is a much shorter term disruption, especially with, a large part of the population still has employment, and they are typically more likely to buy homes, higher wage earners and income earners. So this will pass. But, getting back to your question, how does it work, and how does that process happen? I think that, let me step back for a second and if you could repeat yourself.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, when you started your practice, because it was 2008 and it was such a challenging time, and like you said, because you didn't have the local context, like what was it that the word of mouth referral, tell me about that part.
I had all this new construction experience and nobody was hiring. So basically what I did to familiarize myself with the market, I sat down with a good friend who knew everybody in real estate. And I said, Josh, I got to introduce myself and get a lay of the land. So I sat with him for a couple hours and literally picked his brain and got every significant person I could in Philadelphia real estate, got their number and reached out to them and said, I want to set up an informational meeting with you. I don't want a job because I know you're not hiring, but I just want to sit and understand what you're doing and what you feel about today's climate. And everybody welcomed me with open arms. And I literally had 2 meetings a week for, 6 to 8 months, where I literally every week I met with somebody new. And at the end of that period, I said, wow, I have a pretty good understanding of who's doing what in this region. And because of that, I sort of fell into an opportunity where, I met a small developer who said, yeah, my condo project is stalled. I don't know what to do. You have a background in new construction. Can you take a look at it? And I walked in the project with him and I said, well, your salespeople aren't doing you any favors because they're not marketing your project like they should. Your model home is sloppy. Your paperwork stinks. And I just basically just sort of read it to him. And he goes, I really like what you're saying. Can you come sell for me? And I said, sure. Next thing you know, I've hung my license with Prudential Fox and Roach, which is now Berkshire Hathaway. And I started selling, and that that job led to a couple more, which led to more business, and it just sort of
Yeah.
snowballed.
And I think that is so huge. I work with a lot of like newer stagers, and that's something that they're always asking, like, what should I, how should I be marketing? And my biggest thing is always word of mouth, and really working connections, and you just never know where that's going to lead. That's amazing.
It is so very much a connected business because it's, there's a lot of glib salespeople out there, but it's the smart ones who have integrity and smarts, who rise to the top and get past the quick chat. I mean, I know that you do a lot of work with Pam Butera, who's somebody that I have a ton of respect for, who works at Keller Williams. So I met Pam when she was selling a project that my family business was building in the early 90s in Worcester, Montgomery County. And she was a salesperson. It was 168 townhouses. And I was the customer service superintendent who would ready the houses for settlement. And I mean, every time we did a walkthrough, I would hand the keys to Pam, and then she would go to settlement. So we're talking, 25, 28 years ago. And Pam was selling, she was a listing agent, and I was this kid, and here we are still, crossing paths. I did a deal with Pam a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And it's great because that's the type of environment we have. It's small, and, you do right, it comes back to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you about how you pivoted when you heard that real estate was closed down. Like, what happened? What was your first thought? Was it like, oh, bleep, bleep, bleep?
A little bit. It's amazing how things unraveled so quickly. And it was breathtaking. Not just, professionally, but personally, and your family, and societally. It was really stunning the way it happened. So what we did was, I was fortunate to have put a lot of business in the pipeline in the wintertime. And that's sort of a goal always. I always try to push hard starting December 1st, because that's typically a quiet time in the market. And I go, okay, if I can really bust my butt in December and January, I'm going to reward myself with deals that are seeded in February, March, and April, and really come into the market, the spring market, ahead of the game. And so I did that. And so I was fortunate that I had a lot of deals in my pipeline before things really shut down. But yeah, your initial reaction of bleep, bleep, bleep was pretty spot on.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So what does busting your butt look like?
It means doing the little things that you do to be successful. Being successful is not an overarching principle. I mean, it is, but when it comes down to it, it's doing a lot of little things right.
Okay.
So it's getting up in the morning with a purpose. It's having a list of goals that you want to accomplish that day. It's saying, I'm going to reach out to, 5 people a day that I haven't touched in my sphere, in 6 months to check in with them. It means working on your marketing for your listings and having a dedicated plan and just sticking to the plan. It's just blocking and tackling. It's not rocket science. It really isn't.
So do you block do you have specific days where like that, is that what the plan is? Like, on Mondays you're making calls, or, like Tuesdays you're working marketing, or is it a little bit in flex depending on what your schedule looks like?
It's somewhat in flex. And I know that there are very successful agents who will block out their calendars weekly, and they'll say, hey, from Tuesday 8 to 10, that's our call time, and that's all we do is calls. And I appreciate that. I don't work quite that way, but my weekly goals are set, and come hell or high water, they're met. But I have a little bit of flexibility so that if I have a listing appointment on Tuesday morning, I'm not going to push that seller back. I'm going to say, yeah, we're meeting on your schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I know from working with you, that we do like really work to make sure it's best for the client. That's so interesting. So you have weekly goals. Are they the same goals
Nope,
each
they
week?
change quarterly. No.
Okay.
One of the wonderful things about working at the How Group, is that all of our departments at How run, we run our business through a level 10, which is it's a framework of set meetings and large goals and then small goals to get to the large goal.
Okay.
And those large goals are met quarterly and adjusted quarterly. So each quarter I have a rock, and the rock is my big goal for the quarter.
You are a rocket fuel /
Right.
traction reader.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
So the entrepreneurs, oh gosh, what's the
Yeah.
book? Entrepreneur's Principle.
Is that it's Gino Wickman,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So we run
I've
all of
got
our
them
companies,
here. I'm a
right?
big fan.
So we run all of our companies that way. And
Okay.
so there's a level of accountability that's amazing, because you set your quarterly rock and then you say, okay, how can I get there? Each month I have to do a certain number of calls or a certain number of appointments, right? So that means that each week I have to do a certain number of calls to get a certain number of appointments that are going to lead to a certain number of deals. And if I do that properly, by the end of the quarter, I've achieved my rock. If I don't, when we have our weekly or biweekly meeting with our peers, my peers say, well, Tom, what happened? You didn't meet your goal for the week. Was there a problem? You said it. You set the goal. It wasn't us that said it. You said it. Was it too hard to do? Did you not have the time to do it? Did you not understand how it was supposed to be done? So there's a level of accountability in this system that's really brilliant. And it pushes you because you want to succeed, because you made the goal. And two, you don't have an egg on your face in front of your peers. So it's a nice way to motivate and stay motivated.
That's so great. That you're inspiring me, because we have looked at that and sort of incorporated some of it, but not consistently. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've identified some rocks and then we're like, oh, but look, things have changed. And
Right.
what rocks did we put in place? So I see Catherine is on here. So Kath, we're going to be doing rocks.
It's actually, I think it's called the Entrepreneurs Operating
EOS.
System.
That's right.
EOS.
The
Yep.
EOS.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And I like literally when we're in the downtime of the year, I'm like, oh my God, this is the way we're going to do everything. And then we get busy and
we've run that company, and the How Group is 100 people, right? And the brokerage end of it is just, 28 or 30. So we're, part of this larger umbrella of the How Group, and our divisions have run it for about 2.5 years, the EOS system. And it's been amazing for increasing productivity and just cutting through the BS.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that you bring up is something that, I think is fascinating, because it's, that knowing what the goal is and then knowing what the steps are, your brain has already decided what the actions are. So when you sit down to do work, you don't need to redecide. You don't need to sit and try to figure it out. It really does, it's like a neuroscience hack, which makes total sense for productivity.
Right.
That's so cool.
It's good stuff.
I'm all into that brain science stuff. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit, of course I could talk about the business stuff all the time. Let me ask you this, since we're on the topic of EOS and rocket fuel and traction as books that I know I love, for sure. Do you have a favorite business book that you lean on, or a few?
When I thought about this question, and I wish I did, I had some sort of go-to. For me, reading is such a leisure activity. I love novels, and I love Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I love Graham Greene, and these other authors that are totally not business related.
Yeah.
But I'd say if I had to pick, it would be Gitomer's Little Red Book of Sales. It's just this little pocket book. First name is Jeffrey Gitomer. The Little Red Book of Sales is great. It's pithy, it's quick, and it really just sort of distills down to a very tangible, bite-sized pieces what successful salespeople do to stay in business. And again, it's not rocket science. It's doing a lot of little things right, and being consistent, and doing it with integrity.
Yeah, like that kind of compound effect. I don't know if you've ever read that book. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
That same thing. So true. So all right, let me see. so kind of now we're emerging out of this zone. We're heading, oh, please,
Mhm.
to yellow
Right.
in the city and your zip codes. What can sellers be and buyers be looking for it to happen in the market? You know,
Right.
are
So
favorable?
I sort of felt this. I feel like our spring market has really been in real estate deferred now to a summer market. Usually in the Philly area, you have two peaks in the year. You have a spring market, which is dominant, which starts, after the Super Bowl and ends, give or take Memorial Day, depending on how robust it is. Things sort of quiet down by July into August. And then when school starts back up, you have a smaller, but certainly dynamic fall market that'll then continue until really Thanksgiving or maybe a week after. In this case, because the spring market, when the spring market was starting, it was cooking. I mean, the
It
winter was really
was.
robust. Right. It was mild. It was a mild winter, so weather wasn't being a negative
Yeah.
to the market. There was low inventory, and the interest rates are super low, and so the market was really poised to just explode. When COVID happened, all that came to a halt. But the underlying dynamics didn't change. There's still no inventory. Interest rates are even lower. So now that things are relaxing, the market is really starting to take off. And I feel like that spring market has now been deferred to a summer market.
Okay.
And it's going to be a busy summer for real estate.
That's exciting. That's
Yeah.
so good. So good. And so coming out of all of this, hopefully we have navigated the most restrictive that we will see, hopefully. Um, do you have any big takeaways like about how you run your business, or like you said, those small steps you take daily that have helped you be successful
Right.
and continue to thrive?
So, this whole disruption, it's really not been catastrophic for me
Good.
psychologically or business wise. Thankfully, I knock wood. Because honestly, I feel like I've been fighting challenges, and figuring out ways to succeed since 2008. You know,
Yeah.
real estate is, and being an agent, is very much as you are as a stager, is very much an entrepreneurial enterprise, and
Yeah.
you got to scratch, claw, kick, do whatever it takes to generate business. Obviously, ethically and with a smile, I hope. But the same dynamic of doing whatever it takes to make it happen, that didn't change this time around.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to get up in the morning and work and hustle and
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, nothing's changed. What I think has changed though is how we present homes and property to the market. Whereas virtual tours prior to COVID were something that happened, it was rare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might have a listing that had a virtual tour or a matter report where you can
Yeah.
sort of click through and walk through a home. With COVID, it became absolutely mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the after effects, as things are being relaxed and we can now do in-person showings, I feel that virtual tours will become or have become a mainstay of the realtor's toolbox. It's just part of the deal. You get
Yeah.
photography done, you get your virtual showing, your virtual tour done.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just mandatory.
Yeah.
And I think that'll continue.
Do you think you'll continue to see buyers buying without doing an actual in person? Because I mean, we've experienced
So
that during this time, but do you think that'll
we
continue?
we have, I think I think in extreme cases, yes, just as in extreme cases before COVID, people bought sight unseen. But I think if you look at the data, the number of transactions that happened when somebody did not physically walk through a property were really small, even with
Okay.
COVID.
Gotcha.
And the reason is this, you just can't, especially with a larger dollar value, can't expect a buyer to be comfortable buying a home they can't walk through. They
Yeah.
can't see the streetscape, smell the home,
Mhm.
see the light. You just there's too many, home is such a personal thing.
Yeah.
You're not buying a toaster, you're buying a place where you feel safe in, where emotionally you're connected to,
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to have your hopes and dreams. You're going to raise your family. You're going to be with your loved ones. And that type of environment, you can't choose it by a video. You have to experience it walking through. So I know this personally, and I know this from just talking to other agents. I know a lot of sales that happened during this time were of transactions where buyers had toured a property ahead of time and then came back and bought. I love being live in the house. And a lot of buyers bought after they had already seen the property.
Okay.
Where, they had toured in February and then gone back to Chicago, and then the shutdown happened. They said, we really like that house we saw back in February. Is it still in the market? Well, it's temporarily off the market. I can call the seller or the seller's agent, and, next thing you know, we're doing a deal because they already walked through. Yep. So that happened a lot more frequently than somebody purely saying, I haven't been in the house, but I got to go somewhere. So I'm just going to buy.
Gotcha. Cool. Awesome. Well, I think is there any parting thing you want to share with us about you, your business, entrepreneurship?
Grateful for the opportunity to gab for, a few minutes.
So good.
I think that being successful in whatever you do requires a commitment to succeeding. And that's a commitment you make to yourself first and foremost. And you say, I'm going to be the best, whatever it is. And I'm going to do it with integrity. I'm going to do it ethically. I'm going to work hard. And that's how people succeed. It's amazing when you do something that you love, that you get gratification out of. And usually very successful people love what they do, but it starts with an internal mindset of succeeding, because then you serve your clients the best, you provide the best work product. So that's the parting word.
I love it. And I could not agree more, being a newbie compared to you at all of this.
Not at all.
It is so true. Well, thank you so much for taking your time away from your family today to be here to share this. And we love working with you. We love working with all of the agents at the How Group that we have the privilege of working with. And we love your clients.
Thank you.
And we can't wait to get back in their doors.
And vice versa. We rave about you in our office, and your book is prominent in our office, and we're thrilled. Can't wait to do more work with you as well. Wonderful. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, everybody. I don't see any questions. Oh wait, I see some comments. Maybe it's people saying hi. No, hold on. As I'm wrapping up now, I'm seeing comments. Okay, there we go. No, people are just thanking you. They love the information.
Oh, nice.
And
nice to hear.
I really admire the ability to set weekly goals and follow through. It's huge, right? All right, and we're getting lots of love bombs from people. Lots of hugs for Tom Dilsheimer. Not surprised.
Flattered. Happy to chat after, without question, somebody can message me or what have you.
Super. Thank you so much. All right, have a great rest of your day and your weekend. Thank you for being here. All right, bye.
Bye. Okay.